All right, Mr. Anders, thank you so much for joining us and coming here on campus to be with us and talk to students and to get your views out there. Tell me a little bit, first off, about why you're running for mayor.
Chip, I'm running for mayor because it's the ultimate opportunity to serve a community that I love. I moved here with my family when I was a baby. Had the fortunate experience of growing up in Auburn. Didn't have a hard decision to make about where I chose to go to college. Mm-hmm. Spent a couple of years away from Auburn and came back home to go into business with my family, and I've been here ever since. Raised my only family here. Have had a son graduate from Auburn recently and another son that's currently here and a daughter that's a senior at Auburn High that will be coming to Auburn next year. So my love and devotion for this place is significant. Auburn's done a lot for my family, and I feel like this is the path for me to represent and serve Auburn as best I can. I also believe, Chip, that I've had a unique set of experiences through my work world and my family world and certainly my civic engagements that has prepared me for this moment to take this step to ultimately lead Auburn from an elected official standpoint.
Mm-hmm. So we have, about a week from now. The runoff is on October 9th, Tuesday. How do you think things are going so far? Are you excited? Are you optimistic, looking forward to that?
Hey, it's been a great experience. We started the Thursday after Memorial Day. Really, my campaign started 2 years ago with a lot of meetings. But we've been in the public eye since Memorial Day, since the mayor announced he would not be running again at the Mayor's Memorial Day breakfast, and he basically endorsed me at that breakfast. It's been a great opportunity to share a vision for Auburn, but I think more importantly to hear from others in Auburn. I've had a chance to meet people and cross paths with people that I would never had a chance to do that with if I wasn't running for mayor. So as a child and an adult who spent virtually their entire life in this community, I've actually met some people who I never knew before. I actually met some people who maybe look at the world differently than I do. And I've met some people who are struggling. And that's been a good thing because although I think Auburn's a great place, Auburn's not a perfect place. Mm-hmm. And so it's availed me wonderful opportunities to talk to people, meet people, answer challenging questions, and understand the dynamics of what we have to work with to carry Auburn into the future.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about some issues. I've been to city council for 3 or 4 years now, ever since I moved to Auburn. The main thing that seems to come up over and over again are these big developments. And I know that there's no good answer for how to deal with those. And I may even be understating a little bit how much discussion there is about development. And I don't know how much students pay attention to that sometimes, but I know that people in the community do. What's your view on how to handle those developments? Should we let them run free, as some people say they have been? Should they be reined in a little bit? What's your take on this?
Well, first, it's important for the students to know that any opinions that people have, they shouldn't view as being punitive towards them. The students mean everything to this community. They drive this community. They provide us our uniqueness and our energy and our economy. Students are important to Auburn. This just happens to be large-scale developments that only students would live in. It's a very complicated issue because property rights are paramount in the state of Alabama. Those have to be honored. The city can do the best they can to plan for the future and try to understand what trends are coming down the pike that will eventually make it to Auburn and try to plan accordingly. The reality, Chip, is that the first of these projects got online quickly, and we certainly realized that, hey, there's probably more coming. So we quickly decided to pass a moratorium on student housing that went from February to August. It was about a 6-month period of time to try to understand what's about to happen. The reality is that Auburn had a very old inventory of student housing in this community. The big student housing developers who have billions of dollars, they're all real estate investment trusts, saw Auburn as a great opportunity. Auburn wanted better housing stock for the students that they wanted to recruit and attract to Auburn University, so they encouraged this. And so these people that have a lot of money came to our town. They saw that we had a market that was ripe for their product. They saw that Auburn had a student body that would support their product, and then they started investing in property, which the prices of that dirt did not scare them away. Mm-hmm. So the time came in early August 2015 to extend the student housing moratorium. I've always been concerned about the saturation of student housing and what happens to the old units that are no longer occupied by students, and how do we provide services for the people that come in and move into those units as a city. I supported the student housing moratorium again to be extended for another 6 months, primarily because we had no plan as a city. We had no core philosophy about student housing. I thought we should turn the hourglass upside down and give ourselves 2 months and grind it out in a bunch of meetings and figure out what we're going to do. I really wasn't for 6 months, but I was for extending the moratorium. It was pulled from the agenda that night, and the side I voted on did not win. And so the rest of these projects were allowed to go through. They were permitted by right at that time. What happened since then, Chip, is over a couple months later, we finally were able to get a new law, a new ordinance passed that said there'd be no more purpose-built student housing in the core of downtown Auburn. I'm comfortable with that. But I'm still concerned about what happens to these older units. And if I'm elected, I will immediately have a student housing task force that will have representatives from Auburn University, the student body, the private sector, the apartment industry, the city staff, planning, elected officials, and we've got to formulate a strategy for student housing going forward. We owe it to this community to understand that, because the backfill on those units is not a student who's putting on a backpack and riding a bike to class and doesn't use a lot of city services. It becomes people who are going to our schools and riding our school buses, playing on our ball fields, and they use city services at a greater length. And we've got to understand, can we assimilate that? Can we provide for those people? The worst thing that can happen is Auburn grows too fast and we can't provide services for the people that come to town, and then everybody becomes frustrated. So we've got to understand, we do a lot of great projects with incentives. We have done 30-something projects in the last 6 years. It has brought untold amounts of dollars, sales tax dollars, to Auburn, and it's been, in my estimation, good. Maybe it's time to think about that plan for some of these older apartment units, for some of these owners of these apartment units, to repurpose, redo, change the way their property functions, maybe. But it is a challenge for Auburn in the future, Chip. So to answer your question simply, I was not for the large-scale student projects downtown. I was not. I'm still concerned about what happens on the back end. Do I think once they're built and once they're finally put together and all the kind of ugliness of a construction project goes away, I do think the students will be excited about them. I do think they'll live in them. I do think property values will go up. I'm hopeful that we'll have cool businesses in the bottom floor of those units. And I do hope students will live in there and park their cars in their parking decks and walk to a lot of different places and continue to make downtown an active, vibrant place.
So we've gone from 65 feet downtown to 75 feet downtown. There's no student housing downtown, but that doesn't assuage everybody's concerns. Some people are concerned that it went back up to 75. Some people want it to go back down to 65. The university has this culinary arts center that's planned that's going to be 85 feet, and there's nothing the city can do about it because Auburn's protected by the state constitution in that way. Do you see now a push either for it to go back down to 65 feet or to go up to 85 feet because that building's coming and it's going to change the structure of the skyline?
Well, I was an advocate of 75 feet. I've had to answer that question at all the voter forums. I believe the reason I voted for that stands true. But to quickly say, I will not be an advocate to raise the height limit in downtown Auburn. It's 75 feet. It's going to be 75 feet, period. If future generations want to raise it, that'll be up to them. But if I'm the mayor, we will not take that up by and large.
Yeah.
I felt like 75 was good for a couple of reasons. Number one, the business plan for this new hotel asked for an extra 4 rooms to make it work. I believe this hotel project's got a chance to stabilize downtown for generations to come. It brings a great dynamic and a great economy to downtown. It will bring a great asset to all of our citizens from its restaurants and its meeting space. I believe it's a net win for Auburn. I saw what they needed. I believe in their business plan. I voted for 10 extra feet. It also gets rid of what I think is the most unfortunate part of downtown. It's an old hotel that really doesn't function well anymore. And this project will take away that old hotel. And through the negotiations of 75 feet, Chip, we were able to, and I was a big proponent of this, to get a downtown design review team in place. which is a separate set of eyes that provides surety to our citizens that these projects will be evaluated based on charm and character and look and feel and setback and color and all the things that really matter to our citizens. You've got advocates that will be looking out for your best interest. And I believe that hopefully this will be a positive for Auburn, and that the downtown design review team has maybe a larger scope in the future. But that was three things that I thought were positive from going up 75 feet. Gave us a great project, got rid of something that I believe is an eyesore, and then gave us an entity that I believe secures our projects in the future. And that goes for any redevelopment of downtown, whether it's 1 story or 6 stories. This group of people will be looking at those projects and evaluating and weighing in on them.
Mm-hmm. And for students that haven't kept up with everything, you're talking about the hotel that's going to go where Coyotes and the University Inn and the Baptist Student Center is.
That's exactly right.
The design review team, would you advocate for some kind of design review team that would have approval authority, or somebody that would just make recommendations?
Sure. In Alabama, architectural review is not allowed unless you have a historic district. So they have no legal authority. Mm-hmm. But there is a way of having public influence and peer pressure.
Yeah.
And I do believe that they've worked with 2 projects so far. And I'm proud to say out of those 2 projects that the developer has been open and willing to go along with many of their recommendations. In fact, almost all of those recommendations. Mm-hmm. So I have great hope. These are reasonable people. Developers who want to come downtown need to know that we have a high expectation of what they want to do. Auburn should demand quality development. This group of people we're not browbeating anyone. We're just asking them to consider things from our point of view. And that's what they're doing, is asking the developers to consider things from that point of view. I stood out that night of that meeting and I said, look, when development agreements come before the council, if these new developers or these potential developers have not worked with this downtown design review team in an open manner, in a welcoming manner, then maybe we don't approve their development agreements. It's very important that they are willing to talk to our people in the downtown design review team and at least be open and available to their suggestions.
And I'm just going to bring this up because I've heard some people concerned about it. You are far outraising your opponent, David Hill. Some of that money is coming from businesses and people that have developments downtown. What do you say to people who are concerned that maybe you're getting money for your campaign, which is not uncommon, but for things that you may be considering in the future?
Sure. Chip, I've had over 200 people, entities, companies, professionals that have given money to my campaign. I believe that tells its own story, that a lot of people believe in who I am and the kind of leader I'm going to be. Anyone that's ever worked with me civically, in my business, or even on the council knows that I'm an independent thinker. I'm a consensus builder, but I'm an independent thinker, and that I will not be owned by anyone. Mm-hmm. The student housing moratorium was not a pro-business, pro-developer stance to take. I was roundly criticized for that. There have been other approvals that I have not approved that have been seen as anti-development, anti-business. As the mayor, you have to be the mayor of all of Auburn. And I like business. I believe economic development is positive for Auburn. Economic development provides all of the things and funds all the things that make Auburn a unique town and make our city successful in providing services for our residents. But not every project is right for Auburn. And Auburn citizens have my word that I will look at everything independently, that I will not be persuaded by anyone who gave me money. I'm grateful for that money and I'm grateful for that confidence. But at the end of the day, I've got to be an independent-minded mayor.
Absolutely. Where do you see Auburn in 20 years? We had the 2020 plan. What's the 2040 plan? Briefly, what do you expect?
Well, I'm a big advocate of Auburn 2040, and I believe Auburn citizens are primed and ready to be stakeholders for Auburn's future. And I look forward to getting that process moving. We'll do that immediately in early 2019 by forming a leadership team, getting organized, and preparing our town for that moment when we're activated and we're getting around the table and we're making those decisions that determine Auburn's future. Auburn's going to continue to grow because we're going to continue to be an outstanding city. Auburn University is not going anywhere. That attracts people in and of itself. But our city now has stepped up alongside our university over the last couple of generations because of great leadership. And now our city is a destination place to live. We're geographically in a great location between two state capitals on a major interstate. We're near beaches and mountains, and we're in a college town. So Auburn's going to continue to be a location that people want to move to. And through annexation and good planning, we've got to decide how fast we want that to occur. I believe Auburn will be bigger in 20 years than it is today.
Sure.
I believe Auburn will continue to be challenged by the multi-high how does that look like? I believe we'll see the day that there'll be a hospital in Auburn. But the most important thing is that we as elected officials are operating in the best interest of our community, and we plan as well as we can to forecast what Auburn might or might not be. And then we just hope for the best and react when we have to react. I can't imagine what Auburn will be like in 20 years, Chip, but I hope it's as great a town to retire in and to raise a family in and to go to college in as it is in 2018.
Sounds like you think Auburn's on the right track.
I do think Auburn's on the right track, but I'll repeat, Auburn's a great place, but Auburn's not a perfect place. We have our challenges. My head is not stuck in the sand. We've got to figure things out like traffic, student housing saturation, downtown parking, multiple high schools. Those are major issues. Public safety is a big issue. We have to be vigilant to get on top of those things as early as possible. But I do think Auburn's a great place, and I do think most of the experiences that our residents have in this town are positive.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
We appreciate your interest in our city.
Thank you.